Here's to whiskey kisses, the peaty taste of sin.
Greetings, whiskey folk. This is Drinking Out Loud, and I'm your host, Adam Bradshaw. It is a pleasure to welcome you back to my kitchen again here in Victoria, Canada. And this is a bit of a follow-up video, I guess, to the last video. Big Peat, I'm a big fan of Big Peat, as you probably all saw in the last video. So thank you to everyone who caught that video, especially those of you who caught it live at the premiere and joined in the live chat. I had a fantastic time talking with you all. And yeah, well, first of all, I should actually say we have already sold out of the 33-year-old pre-orders. We still, at the moment of taping, have 4 of the 27-year-old available. So if you've already missed out on the 33 and you're kicking yourself a little bit, don't miss on the 27. But one of the big questions that I got asked a lot was if I'm a fan of Big Peat, and if I like the Big Peat, what else might I like? And that's especially a thing right now, seeing as the Strath is currently out of Big Peat. We will be getting it back again soon. But I thought I would address that question in a video, because I'm a fan of Big Peat, but honestly I'm a fan of the style of Big Peat in general. I'm a fan of that blended malt peated whiskey. And Big Peat is, one of the absolute best examples, but it's not the only one. And I'm going to share with you today 3 of my other favourites from my own personal collection. So, always good idea to stretch. Big Peat is what we're talking about, so Big Peat is what I'm going to drink as a warm-up. Always good when comparing to have a base thing to compare to, so it's not only a warm-up today, but also kind of getting a baseline level to compare the other 3 malts that I've got waiting for me. Yeah, beautiful. As always, Big Peat, nice and consistent in flavour. It doesn't seem to change much day to day. Like a lot of whiskies, they really will change depending on what else you've eaten or had to drink before sampling them, or what mood you're in, or what the weather's like sometimes even. A lot of whiskies, I will find myself flip-flopping on my opinion of day to day. Big Peat is pretty consistent. I always find comfort in how consistent Big Peat is, to be honest. Not just batch to batch, but dram to dram throughout the bottle. It doesn't seem to change too much with oxidation. Just a beautiful, big, creamy, rich, vegetal peaty dram. The essence of Islay in one tidy little package, tied up with a neat little bow, a very big burly bow. So what would I suggest to someone who already has a bottle of Big Peat, or maybe can't get a bottle of Big Peat right now, who wants a similar kind of experience? Well, I'm going to start with something that is probably the least similar to Big Peat out of the 3 I'm about to present, but a fantastic peated blended malt nonetheless. And that is actually something that, before the COVID-19 outbreak happened, was something that Dram Association members were able to try in store. This is a currently featured whiskey in our club. This is the Shetland Real. This is what we're going to compare first of all. Big Peat versus Shetland Real. Let me get myself a glass of Shetland Real going. So Shetland Real is a whiskey that I was very, very excited to bring into the Strath. Ooh. It's a whiskey that the rep at the time, who has since moved on to a different position, very excitedly gave me a sample of, and was a little bit mean, to be honest, because he gave me the sample and then said, well, I'm glad you like it, but you might not even be able to get it, because there's only a certain amount coming in, and for whiskies of a certain sort of type and quality where only a certain amount's coming in, they often go to the government stores here in BC, and they will get saved for the premium spirit release, which, if you don't know by now, I'm not a fan of the government stores. I'm even less of a fan of the premium spirit release. But we were lucky enough to be able to work with some of our partners, a couple up island and some on the mainland, to try and bring the Shetland Real whiskies to the right audience. you guys, basically, because this is an absolutely incredible whiskey that I loved before I even knew what it was, and I loved even more when I found out the price of it. So let's talk a little bit about what this whiskey is. First of all, I give it a bit of a nose. So Shetland Real it's a blended malt, and it's a blended malt that is being done by a new distillery, a distillery called Saxiford up in the Isle of Unst in, well, would you know it, the Shetlands, of all places. So Unst is home to the furthest north distillery in all of Scotland now. A title for single malts, of course, it used to be held by Highland Park. This distillery, Saxiford, is over 150 kilometres north of Highland Park. That broke the record. That certainly broke the record. The guy responsible for this whiskey is actually very familiar with Highland Park. He was the distillery manager there, as well as the distillery manager at Glenrothes and Glenfiddich, Balvenie, and even Girvan, the grain distillery. And he's gone on to create this absolutely fantastic product. So when they set up the distillery on Unst, they wanted to, as all distilleries do, they kind of want to put their name on the map as they're building a profile. And these guys, as many distilleries do nowadays, got some sourced whiskey to, showcase what they could do with a spirit. Not a spirit that they've made themselves, that's going to come on much further down the line, but to showcase the other parts of whiskey production, because distilling is only one part of the puzzle. And as you can see in Whiskey Web's videos, a good friend of mine, Leon Webb, check out his videos. You can search for Whiskey Web on YouTube. He will take you through some videos explaining the blending process, which is another very, very important part of whiskey making, but also maturation as well. The type of wood that's used, the area that it is matured in, all of these things come together to create a whiskey. It's not just a distillation. So they decided to take some distillate from a pre-existing distillery, still some relatively young distillate, and then see what they could do to affect the flavour of it by putting it in different styles of wood, by putting it in different areas of maturation, by maturing it on the Isle of Unst, which is undoubtedly going to have an effect on the maturation, the different temperature, the different climate, the raging seas that surround it. And they did so with another distillery that Stuart Nickerson was involved in. I don't think they outright said ever what the distillery was, but they called it Port Soy. Now, Port Soy is a village. It's a coastal village. It's in the Highlands region, but it's just outside of the River Spey area. So it's just at the mouth of the estuary there. And Stuart Nickerson actually was the manager. He was actually the guy responsible for bringing back this distillery from over 22 years of closure. And it's a distillery that I absolutely love. And it's a distillery we've seen quite often in the Dram Association, and you guys seem to be fans of as well. And it's called Glenglassaugh. And I'm probably going to be doing a video shortly on Glenglassaugh, because I happen to have, I think, 8 different expressions at home, just right next to me, that I'm probably going to do a video just on that one distillery, because I'm that much of a fan of it. But they took some Glenglassaugh distillate and they decided to mature it up on Unst and see what would happen. Great success. People absolutely loved the first 4 of these single malts from Port Soy that they did. And then they started to adapt it and change it and start playing with blending. And they had Shetland Real Batch 1 and 2, and now Shetland Real Batch 3. Now, sources have told me that, yes, this is still a Glenglassaugh base, but it is also imbued with a bit of Kalila, which is always a great blending ingredient. I've said many times that it's the most consistent Islay distillate. I've never in my life had a Kalila that I would say is anything less than good. Good is the base level, and it goes from good to fantastic. So adding Kalila to it to give it a bit of smoke. I'm guessing that when Saxiford releases their own whiskey, they're probably going to be doing a peated whiskey, as is the sort of style that would work well with the climate up there. I think that's the story that they're going to be telling with their whiskey. So practicing with more of that peated distillate is a very good idea for distilleries to be doing. And this, I find to be just absolutely stunning. I think they've done a great job with this. Now, let's read the back of the bottle. This exclusive blended malt Scotch whisky is bottled only at Saxavord Distillery on the island of Unst in the Shetland Isles. Each batch is prepared from a small number of carefully selected casks of single malt Scotch whisky to create a unique expression that is evocative of the Shetland Isles, with notes of sweet dried fruits, spices, wood, and windswept with peat. Well, that makes much more sense. Windswept with peat. You can almost taste the elements of the special environment on this remote island. Nice. So when we did our tasting notes for this in the Dram Association originally, we gave this one a nickname, as we always do with Dram Association malts. This one was called Salted Caramel and Smoked Bacon Meringue. I got so much of that smoky bacon and salted caramel, but when I delved a little deeper, I got an awful lot of the kind of fruits that you'd get on the typical Australia or New Zealand dessert pavlova. So I got kiwi, I got pineapple, I got passion fruit and guava, and all on that sort of creamy meringue kind of base beneath it. Just beautiful. Now we don't know, of course, what kind of casks were used. We don't know the age. We know it's probably young if it is Glenglassaugh, which all fingers point to it being a very, very much Glenglassaugh based spirit. Tastes like it to me. It's got that malty graininess to it. Well, Glenglassaugh's only been around for 10 years since it reopened, like 11, I think now maybe. And when they released this over a year ago, I think in the UK, it can't possibly be any older than 8 for the youngest ingredient. So we're not looking at a particularly well-aged whiskey here, but we are looking at a very interestingly aged whiskey. I think they've done a good job at making sure the casks are relatively active and getting a lot of conversation between the spirit and the oak in this. Just stunning. So one of the things that I mentioned I was blown away with was the price. So I loved this whiskey before I knew what it was, before I knew the price, and as soon as I knew the price, I knew that I had to move heaven and earth to make sure we got this at the Strath. In doing so, I had to promise to bring in quite a lot of it. So much, in fact, that it did raise questions with my manager. But this is absolutely stunning value. Its regular price is $97.30, which is just beautiful for this style of whiskey. And you can get it right now, because it was featured in the Dram Association, the price is still up on the website. You can get it for the special price of $82.52. An absolute killer deal for this very unique and interesting malt. But if that doesn't sound like the one for you, well, what else have I got down here? I actually have 2 more that we've already tried in the Dram Association. And the next one in my lineup, the Puff Adder from Blackadder. Now, again, if you've been following along with these videos from the beginning, you're probably quite familiar with Blackadder now. I've already done 2 videos featuring them. And this is another one in their series of fantastic whiskies that we've been releasing here exclusively on the island at the Strath. Now, Blackadder, as you probably know by now from listening to the other videos I've done, is a company that we're working very closely with. We're actually one of only two stores in the entire province now that will stock Blackadder. We have the semi-exclusive along with our friends in Vancouver at Legacy. And this was the first Blackadder that we released after cutting that deal, after starting what we're calling the Snake Pit. We released this as an in-store dram. People weren't quite sure what it was and what was going on. And in fairness, we still don't really know what it is and what's going on, because Blackadder are incredibly tight-lipped about what's in this whiskey. All we know is that it is a blended malt and it is peaty. That's really, really about it. I think it says it's Scotch. Knowing Blackadder, it might have some freaking amroot or something in here. I have no idea. Blended malt Scotch whiskey. It's okay. It's 100% Scotch. But apart from that, we don't really know where it's from. Let's see if the back gives us any extra clues. I'm finding more and more when I'm doing these videos that apparently I've never actually read the back label of some of the whiskies, which is, you would have thought, the first place to look when researching a whiskey, but apparently I've been opening up books and searching the internet, and sometimes the answers are in front of me the whole time. Let's see. Puff Adder is a tantalising vatting of single malt whiskies, carefully selected and blended in Scotland for Blackadder. Puff Adder. It's in the name. A puff of smoke and buttery, sweet vanilla, bottled using minimal filtration so as not to lose the oils and esters we cherish. There is no bite, just a long, lingering finish to be enjoyed on its own or with mixers. Blackadder, creating unique whiskey tasting experiences. You certainly are. That is pretty much what you are all about, unique whiskey tasting experiences, and we love you for it. So, ooh, it's a little peppery today. Much more peppery than I remember. And I say peppery, I don't mean like black pepper. I mean chili pepper. It's almost like capsicum, like actual peppers. That's pretty cool. Beautiful. So the one thing we noted in our Dram Association notes, the most prominent thing that really hit me about this whiskey, the minimal filtration which Blackadder is known for. They either I don't know if this is actually true, but this is the line I've been using. They either choose to use a cheesecloth or they don't. And you probably saw in the opening video with the shade with all the floaty bits. This isn't a raw cask. They did do a very minimal amount of barrier filtration, but there's no kind of mechanical filtration at all in this whiskey, or chemical filtration. This is just natural, minimal barrier filtration, and you can see it in the oils as well. I'm just going to see if I can do this. If I add a couple of drops of water to release the oils, let's see if we can get the lighting right. You should be able to see the viscous oils changing and swirling around in there. I don't know if the camera can pick that up, but I can certainly see it with my own eyes. Yeah, just this beautiful, thick, oily whiskey as a result of that minimal filtration. And although it's only, I think, 46%, let's check that. Yep, although it's only 46%, it feels so much richer and more full-flavoured because it's not had those esters ripped out of it. They're all there. It's not been, I mean, it's been diluted, but it's not been strained. It's not had them literally removed. And you can even see from the legs. I don't usually pay much attention to the legs of the whiskey because, I mean, yes, sometimes it can tell you the age of the whiskey. It's more likely going to tell you the viscosity of the whiskey and the different methods used to create it. I think the stories of people guessing the exact age of a whiskey simply by the legs, I think that's a bit bullshit, to be honest. They look beautiful, and they generally don't really tell you that much. If you want to find out more about the whiskey, you're much better off just looking at the bloody bottle and seeing what it tells you. But you can tell just from the legs alone on this that it is a particularly viscous whiskey. But what will tell you that better than the legs is putting the bloody stuff in your mouth. So, slasher. Yeah, big, rich, viscous. This is a lot sweeter than the Big Peat. Actually, do a quick side by side. It's been a while since I've had a sip of this now. I should refresh my memory. Sweeter and not as peaty. Big Peat, believe it or not, is peatier. It's in the name. Yeah, Big Peat. It actually comparatively tastes a lot ashier now, which is something I don't usually pick up in Big Peat that much. Yeah, the Puff Adder is a really sweet peat. It's got that earthy, almost like a maple syrup sweetness going to it. Not in an overpowering sweet way, but in a comparative way to the much more vegetal Big Peat. Yeah, if you're looking for something that can sit alongside Big Peat that's the same strength. I think Big Peat's 46, isn't it? Yeah. The same strength, the same style, the same sort of ethos of no colouring, no chill filtration, no bollocks. The Puff Adder is a fantastic choice to sit alongside the Big Peat. I think it's cut from the same cloth, but with a different pattern on it, very much so. Yeah. probably the most similar of the three whiskies I'm presenting you today as alternatives to the Big Peat. And this one, we had it in the Dram Association a while ago. I think, I want to say November, maybe October of last year. It's all blurring. But yeah, this one can be yours. There are 3 bottles left right now on strathliquor.com. It is $117.30. Now, I know a couple of you have bought some of this recently, and you've all taken advantage of the 10% off Premier subscription deal. So I encourage anyone watching these videos to look into that. If you feel like you're going to be enjoying buying whiskies from our online store and getting them delivered, the only way to get that 10% off discount on all Scotch whiskey other than SWS bottles is by signing up for the Premier subscriber. You can do so for only $10 a month. And actually on that, for people who are already Premier subscribers, in case you missed it in the email last week, we are still charging the $10 a month to your account, despite the fact that we're not allowed to do in-store tastings right now. And what we plan to do is we're actually saving up all of that money from the charges. And when the ban is lifted and when we're allowed to enjoy each other's company in person again, we're actually going to take all of that money and put it towards, we're going to add some ourselves and put it towards 1 or maybe even 2 fantastic bottles of whiskey that are going to be poured out for only the Premier subscribers. So it's not going to waste. Your $10 a month is going to a very good purpose. You're just investing in future drams. Depending how long this pandemic goes, I mean, right now I think we can already look forward to something at least of a Bruichladdich Black Arts kind of range, and maybe, who knows, if it lasts 3 or 4 months, maybe we could be cracking open the 40-year-old Deanston. We'll find out when we get there. But yes, Premier subscribers, we will look after you. However, you don't need to be a Premier subscriber to take advantage of a great pricing on the Puff Adder today. We're actually going to bring back the original Dram Association special when we first release this. Whenever we feature a whiskey in the Dram Association, it always gets a special price. And that is no different right now. We are going to re-put this on sale. This is $103.83 right now online. Probably, I have a feeling we're probably going to blast through the last 3 bottles at that special price. Don't know if there's any more in the warehouse. Might have to rock, paper, scissors with Legacy as to who gets the last couple of cases of this one. There might be more coming back in the future, but at the very least, there are 3 bottles available now for only $103.83. Beautiful. Now, the last one I'm going to present to you today as an option is the one that we had the longest ago in the Dram Association. We had this a very long time ago now. But it's a brand, and it's it's a name that the Dram Association is very, very familiar with. This is from Morrison Mackay. This is an Old Perth. This is the Old Perth PT. Now, this was the very first Old Perth that we had in the Dram Association. And I don't know, when we first started the Dram Association, we were very new at scoring. We hadn't really got a baseline as to what an average score was going to be yet. So I think the score that we gave this is very unfair to how good it is and comparative to where the scoring settled in terms of what the average score is now in the Dram Association. I think if we were to redo this one at a tasting, it would score better than it did previously. But regardless, Old Perth is something, this was the first that we tried, and it took us on one hell of a journey. So far, Old Perth has delighted us time and time again. We've had a 22-year-old Old Perth, we've had a 23-year-old Old Perth. Both of those are still, I believe, in the top 5 overall scoring whiskies in the entire history of our club. Both absolutely ridiculously good whiskies. We've also had the cask strength sherry. We've had a red wine cask strength, both of which scored very well, especially the sherry one. And then we had our very own exclusive. We had the world exclusive of an Old Perth that was bottled exclusively for the Victoria Whisky Festival 2020. So hopefully some of you picked up a bottle of that. We will be reviewing that again in a video in the short future. We're looking into doing something a little special with that one, so it's going to take a little time. But we will be reviewing that together online here. But in the meantime, Old Perth PT, a personal favourite of mine. Let's crack it open and see what we got. So, again, we don't know the full story behind what's in the whiskies here, but unlike the Puff Adder, we know a little bit about this one. It's been said that this is 4 malts, So it's a blend of only 4 different distilleries, all from islands on the west coast of Scotland. So Islay is very much in the mix. It could be a lot of Islay. However, it's also, we've been told, that the main component of this whiskey is actually Lechaig from the Isle of Mull, which, if you saw episode 0, the little special welcome episode we did, we like Lechaig here at the Dram Association. The number 1 rated whiskey in the entire history of our club is that 17-year-old raw cask Blackadder Lechaig. So there's a little, or a lot maybe, Lechaig in this Old Perth. Now, I like Lechaig personally because, to me, especially in a blend, it's a sign of the highly probable likelihood that it's also got some Bunnahabhain in there. Because Lechaig and Bunnahabhain now are the 2 main components of the Black Bottle. Black Bottle being one of my absolute favourites, sort of regular, standard bar scotches. Big fan of what they're doing with Black Bottle these days. We're getting some special edition releases of Black Bottle hopefully coming later this year. And yeah, this is probably some of the malt that was destined for that sort of stream. And yeah, it reminds me an awful lot of the Black Bottle, actually. If I was to guess where this would have headed if Old Perth hadn't bought up the casks, I think this is probably a vatting that was supposed to end up being blended with some grain and put into that classic Black Bottle. There's a little bit of a floral lavender thing going on the nose on this one, which is quite interesting. But seeing as we've not actually had an Old Perth here on the videos yet, and some of you who aren't local members of the Dram Association might be wondering who on earth they are and what Morrison Mackay is, a little bit of an introduction to the company. So Morrison Mackay, I mean, for all intents and purposes, they formed in 2018, as that's at least when the name Morrison Mackay came around. They were previously known as the Scottish Liqueur Centre, and in case it wasn't obvious, they made Scottish liqueurs. The company was purchased in 2005 by Kenny Mackay and Brian Morrison, who then took it in the direction of whiskey. That's because they both had a lot of experience in whiskey. Kenny and Brian were the director and chairman, respectively, of Morrison Bowmore, a company which a lot of you will probably know quite well. It's defunct now after selling off its distilleries in 1994. It had Bowmore, Glengarry, and Auchentoshan, which of course they sold to Suntory, now Beam Suntory. But yeah, they were one of the big players at the start of the whiskey boom in the early 90s there. I guess, no, that's before the start of the whiskey boom. But it's still a company which is definitely very well remembered. I mean, unfortunately for me, I wasn't born until 1988, so I don't really remember 1994 very well. And if I did, I certainly don't think I was drinking much whiskey. But yes, a very highly regarded company, and two well-respected members of that company who went on to form Morrison Mackay. Now, Carn Moritz is the name of the single malt, the single cask releases that they have. We've had quite a few in the Dram Association. I'm sure you'll be seeing at least one in the next coming weeks in these videos. But they also revived the Old Perth brand, which had a family significance to Kenny, and they actually bought it from the White and Mackay guys. I'm not sure if so far today I've been saying Morrison Mackay or Morrison Mackay. Again, I don't actually know which one it is. I know it's White and Mackay. I know that if I said White and Mackay on the streets of Glasgow, I might get headbutted. So it's probably actually Morrison Mackay. So if I have been saying Morrison Mackay, I'm very sorry. No, it's probably Morrison Mackay. Oh my god, I'm so confused. It's probably Morrison... God. It's one of them. Either way, Old Perth is much easier to remember how it's pronounced. It's not Old Perth. Anyway, the Old Perth PT, which is the Lechaig base, it can be yours for, again, the special price. The regular price is $79.91. This is an absolute steal of a deal. And we're reinstating the original Dram Association special pricing on this for a limited time only online. You can get this for $71.22. So throw delivery in there, it's going to be about $74, and I can have this dropped off on your doorstep in a couple of days, and you can be enjoying this blended malt just as much as I am. So how does it compare to the Big Peat? Well, similar enough in a sense. The Big Peat is definitely a more potent whiskey. It's a little bit stronger in every dimension. The Old Perth is weirdly more delicate. The bottle's actually got a funny thing on it. It says, the distinctive grannies on the lunkheads of Old Perth, elegant yet functional and belching with reek. Now, reek is I believe just the Scots word for smoke. I think that's why Edinburgh is called Old Reeky. It's not that it smells. It doesn't reek, but it does reek. It smokes. I guess maybe the word reek, which means smell in Yorkshire, probably stems from the word reek that means smell in Scots. Anyway, yeah, definitely nowhere near as smoky as the Big Peat. If you like Big Peat, but you're wanting something a little bit more delicate, this might be the direction to go. It does have a little bit more. I want to guess that there's probably more sherry cask influence in this. I feel like, which would make sense if there is Bunnahabhain in here, because they like to use sherry casks quite a bit. It feels like there is that little bit of that raisiny, chocolatey sherry cask influence in here. It doesn't outright say anywhere that this is uncoloured. Actually, interestingly, any German fans, any German readers there? Because if you can read that, I don't know if I can get it in focus. It has those words. It has mit Farbstoff, Zuckercolor E150A. So this is actually coloured, which would explain the colour. So maybe there isn't a sherry cask in there. Maybe I'm just being thrown off by the fact that they've made it look like there is. So as you can see, it is darker than the Big Peat. Now, colouring, it's one of those things. I personally don't feel like it is anywhere near as big of a problem as a lot of people in whiskey do. I think, yeah, it's insincere. I think it's a little bit fake. I think it's like, I think it's like dyeing your hair. I think it's like someone who's a natural blonde who wants to be a brunette. I don't think it does any harm. I really don't. In double-blind tests, they've shown that E150A doesn't actually have any flavour when it's added to the whiskey. I mean, it tastes a little bit of something when it's on its own, but the amount that you're actually putting in here is so minimal, you can't tell the difference. I mean, the best in the industry can't tell the difference between the same whiskey with or without E150A, and I absolutely certainly can't. So I personally don't care that much about added colouring. I care about filtration. So there's a big thing of, what is it that people have got on the t-shirt? The no fake tans, no chili fills. I think that's a Tom Van Der Roop thing. Hi Tom, if you're watching. I completely agree on the chili fills. I don't mind a fake tan every now and again, so long as it's done tastefully. I think doing something for consistency, for example, makes a lot of sense to make sure the product looks the same time after time. I don't want to throw people under the bus here, but going maybe the Dalmore route of making it look obscenely dark to what it should be, and they're getting better at that. It's not as bad as it used to be. That's a bit iffy. I think that's very insincere. I don't mind so much that this is a bit darker. I do mind that it made me automatically think sherry cask when it possibly isn't. It's hard to say. I mean, I do taste a little bit of that raisins in there, but how much of that is mental after seeing the colour? I really don't know. But yeah, that being said, even if you're not a fan of the fact that they added colour to this, the fact that it's only $71.22 might help make up for it. All right, so what we have here, we've got the Big Peat, and then we have the Shetland Reel, and the Puff Adder. Let's get these glasses out of the way. So, out of these four whiskies, which ones would I recommend? Well, I don't recommend all of them, but for different purposes. So Blackadder is the one that I would say is more likely that anyone has tried. So this is the base. I always recommend, Blackadder, Big Peat. I always recommend the Big Peat. I think this is a fantastic whiskey, but this is the comparison one. So if you know and you like Big Peat and you want to change, well, if you want something that's a little bit more complex, it's got just as much richness, but you want something just that little bit more tropical fruits and rich caramels and just slightly more going on than Big Peat. It's like Big Peat that's gone to university. I would definitely recommend Shetland Real. If you like the Big Peat, but you're thinking maybe you want something sweeter, then I go for the Puff Adder. Very, very similar. I think probably the most similar in flavor profile today, at least on my palate, to the Big Peat. Just that touch sweeter, but with a lot more rich viscosity to it. So if that sounds up your alley, I would choose the Puff Adder. And finally, if you like the Big Peat, but you want something just that little bit more approachable, just that little bit more gentle, and something just that little more inexpensive, then the Old Perth PT is a fantastic choice that you can't go wrong with. I would say, I mean, if you're asking for my personal opinion, I would say buy them all. Obviously, I have. But yeah, maybe one of these jumps out at you, and if it does, please feel free to pick one up on the online store. Big Peat will be returning to our online store shortly, so keep your eye out for that. Thanks for joining us again. We have a very interesting video coming up tomorrow. Tomorrow at 7 o'clock, we will be releasing a video where for the first time, we're going to drink something other than whiskey. Yeah. However, it is definitely tied to whiskey. It's a very closely related thing, because tomorrow we're going to have 3 beers. 3 very interesting beers that were actually barrel aged in casks that used to contain specific whiskies, and we'll be trying those beers alongside some of the whiskies that are from the same distillery as the casks that they were aged in, and we're going to have some fun with the old half and half. Those beers are actually going to be available to purchase online as well, and one of the whiskies that I'll be trying, which is part of a very special collectible set, is also going to be launching online for a very special price as well. So please join us tomorrow at 7 for the old half and half. It's been a pleasure having you here today. See you later. Slash it up. Which do I choose?
Here's to whiskey kisses, the peaty taste of scent.